Hello ladies and gentlemen. Well, Christmas is coming, so it's a good time, isn't it, to think about mistletoe. Mistletoe is actually a parasite though, isn't it? It goes on apple trees and kills them. Takes all their sustenance, stops them from growing, takes their fruit. Ultimately overwhelms them. And this is very much like the EU and Great Britain. The EU is like a giant mistletoe on our country. And it's slowly strangling it to death. And slowly, all you will see, eventually, is simply the mistletoe. The apple tree will be gone. But the thing is, the mistletoe is not the apple tree, and the apple tree is not the mistletoe. Never, ever did they agree to merge. Never did it happen. Never did the essence of the apple tree absorb the essence of the mistletoe, and vice versa. They are both totally separate entities, and they remain that way until, obviously, ultimately, the apple tree is dead. You don't end up with a cross between a mistletoe and an apple tree. What I'm saying is these are two totally separate entities, but one is a parasite that kills the apple tree, stops it from providing fruit, and the other, well, it's the apple tree. And today in the news I hear of Tony Blair. Many is called a traitor, of course. He's saying that he's an insurgent who can keep us in the EU. I think that's plenty of reason to suggest that he's a traitor to our nation, ladies and gentlemen. The EU is nothing to do with this country, and it never has been, in a real sense. Our country is a common law nation. In the Bill of Rights, 1688, it says very clearly under supremacy that no power, no authority whatsoever will be handed over to foreign potentates, foreign authorities or whatever. And that's the contract that the monarch makes with the people. And she's, of course, our sovereign, the head of the state. She's also sworn to God that she'll uphold the laws of this country. And she will also uphold the true gospel in this country. Because, of course, we have a Christian country with a Christian constitution. So there's no way that the EU can interface with our nation, just like the mistletoe cannot interface with the apple tree. All it can do is take its sustenance. And all the apple tree does, it seems, is allow the mistletoe to take sustenance. Similarly, in this country, what we have to do is stop accepting this ridiculous situation with the EU. We have to start focusing on what our nation is. Our nation, the common law, Great Britain has provided enviable freedoms, justice system that when it used to work. It has been the envy of the world, as are other common law nations. And the reason for that, of course, is that their law is rooted in the common law, which is God's law through Christ. It's stable. It's not arbitrary. It's about freedom. It's about no one, not even the king, being above the law. So really, if you really look at it, our nation isn't in the EU, but we've got to decide what our nation is. We've got to decide that we are not the mistletoe, but we are the apple tree, ladies and gentlemen, if you could care to have the metaphor. Now look, here is an interesting quote, and it comes from the cover of the memoirs of Field Marshal Montgomery. He, of course, turned the war around, the Second World War around at El Alamein. That was when, I think that's when Churchill said it's not the beginning of the end, but the end of the beginning. Anyway, here we go. This is a quote. And it says, in this, talking about Field Marshal Montgomery and his book that he wrote, Montgomery wrote, with a pencil apparently. Anyway, there is a sombre warning in this book. More striking perhaps because it comes from a soldier. That what is to be feared in the future is not the possibility of a shooting war, but the more insidious onslaught of economic forces aimed at undermining the very foundations of our civilization. I refer you to Blair's insurgency. Blair's treason, what I think is treason. All attempts to try to change our nation into a parasite monster, which is the EU, some corporate entity, is, to my mind, treason, ladies and gentlemen. Is, in my opinion, treason, and in the opinion of many others. And it's about time we started focusing on what we really are and flagging it up, reasserting it, reaffirming it, and applying it. Applying the common law. Knowing what you're about, knowing what the true framework of our nation is. Otherwise it's going to be totally buried. And this is something that all UKIP supporters have got to start looking into if they really do care about this country. If they really do care about all those who died and suffered, for example, in the Second World War, protecting our nation from fascism. You know, it's become overrun now with fascism. And this is very similar to what Montgomery was warning about. He's talking about economic forces. That is government in cahoots with business. Fascism, ladies and gentlemen. And it's got to stop. Our country needs to reaffirm and reassert its true government. True government which gives us our borders, our justice, a proper military force with men who are trained and well paid. With a good police force as well, ladies and gentlemen, who uphold the common law. These are just some of the things that we should be aiming for and working towards. But it all comes from the true essence of our nation, and that comes from the common law, which is God's law through Christ. Anyway, I've written a short article on this so you can spread it around, share it about, talk about it, read it. And it's called We Never Have Been in the EU. And the sooner we start realising that, and that we're focusing our energies on what we really are and into what's right and good and into asserting what we really are and to seeing the crime, the treason, the Trojan horses that have been set upon us, then we'll make some progress. Anyway, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the article, share it about, share this video about, and join the Common Law Nations Alliance. Thank you very much for watching.